the point at the present can be segmented as an hour or a second. This this explanation is about defining the present and the distinctive period according to the speakers. So the object of the preposition having been found to indicate the experience of the subject lasting at the present is understandable. This explanation is about the way to understand how a point at the present can be a period for the experience as the object of the preposition with. The speaker specifies the point of the present into a period and the subject caused by the experience as the object to get the action indicated by the transitive verb feed more than once during the period. From now on, we will study about the sort of the prepositions. We will study from the preposition in. The speaker applies the preposition in to signify the relationship that the subject of the preposition is a part of the composition that forms the object of the preposition. Before we start to study the next slide, we will review the premise to apply a preposition to describe the existence of the subject. The preposition is classified as the fifth sort of an adverb, so the preposition describes the other description as the description. So the other description for the subject is able to be understood as the existence of the subject according to the fact The fact is that the one created a subject at first, then we are able to indicate the subject with an indicative word. The fact that we can indicate a subject with an indicative word, that means that the subject was created by the one earlier than we indicate the subject with the indicative word. So we will interpret the definition of each preposition based on the existence of the subject. Secondly, as we study the preposition with the transitivity, like the transitive word, we will apply the way to interpret the transitive verb into the way to interpret the definition of the preposition. So we will apply this way. The subject starts and gives the definition of the preposition to the object. The object receives the definition of the preposition from the subject and the object complete the subject-object relationship. The context for completing a subject-object relationship means that the subject and the object go back to the original state before the subject-object relationship takes place. Sorry. We will apply these two ways of interpreting the prepositions as the premise to study the search of the prepositions. There is a clause. I saw you in the past. In this clause, the preposition in is applied to mediate the subject of the preposition, who are the listeners, and the object indicated by the phrase of the noun, the past. According to the definition of the preposition in, we can understand that the listeners are included in the object, the past. The speaker applies the preposition in to signify the relationship that the subject's use of the preposition existed at a point that the object, the past of the preposition included. The object of the preposition, the past, occurred with the past tense revealed by the form of the transitive verb saw. So the point that the subject of the preposition existed, the listeners is the subject or the listeners is a part that the period indicated by the object, the past of the preposition included. We can enlarge the way to interpret the existence of the listeners from the two premises that are the time and the place allowed by the one. In this clause, the preposition in describes the existences of the listeners from the time when the listeners existed. In this context, we can understand that the listeners were surrounded by the atmosphere defined as a point in the past. There is the second clause, I see you in the mall. In this clause, the preposition in describes the existences of the subject, who are the listeners, and we can understand that from the definition of the preposition in, the listeners are included the venue, the place, indicated by the phrase of the general noun, the mall. The speaker applies so we can understand that the speaker focuses on the existences of the listeners from the time according to the object when the listeners existed by the definition of the preposition in. We can also understand that the speaker focuses on the existences of the listeners at the place as one of the two premises to deal with the existences of the listeners allowed by the one. The speaker applies the preposition in to signify the relationship that the subject you of the preposition are included as a part of the place indicated by the object, the mode of the preposition. There is the third clause. I see you in person. In this clause, the preposition in is applied to describe the spiritual existences of the listeners included in the tangible object that is a person, that is indicated by the general noun, person. However, we can understand that the general noun person is not described by a determiner. So we can understand that the range of the indication by the general noun person is not determined by the speaker. This tells us that the speaker focuses on the spirituality of the object. From the basic and principal definition of the preposition in, we can think of the situation that the listeners are included in the object indicated by the general noun person. So how can the plural listeners, whose range can be expanded to every person on the planet, every child of the one, into the object indicated by the general noun person. This tells us that the one allows us to focus on the spirituality when we consider the interpretation of the object of the preposition in, person. The speaker applies the preposition in to signify the relationship that the Holy Spirit resonating to the subject you of the preposition come down on the object person of the preposition that has the physical existence. The listeners that the speaker conveys the action indicated by the transitive verb see, exist, as the Holy Spirit, that is the non-physical existence, into the object person, that is the physical existence. This explanation is able to be understood from the biblical context. Every one of us is linked in the Holy Spirit, in the solemn will of the one. So we can extend the range of the listeners to everyone on earth, to every child of the one. Then we can understand that the listeners whose number is said to be plural is included in the object indicated by the person. This conceptual understanding is allowed by Jesus Christ, and we can internalize our academic study, into the spiritual training to learn and practice the lesson of Jesus Christ in our lives. When we think of this transition that can be stated in this interrogative clause, how can the plural listeners be included in the object indicated by the general noun person? This concern, this discourse cannot be described or explained by the physical existences. So then we can think of the spiritual context to understand this clause. So we can understand that we can understand the reason why V1 allows us indicate the object person without a determiner. So the phrase of the preposition in person is interpreted as the definition being face to face. In the latter part of the Bible, there is the revelation of Jesus Christ. I believe that all of us wait for, I believe almost everyone has faith in the revelation of Jesus Christ, who resolves our concern or issue in the way that we cannot resolve. So this clause can be interpreted especially from the perspective that we have faith in Jesus Christ coming to us in the form, in the shape of a person. I heard that there is a painting whose name is Annunciation. The one allows the angel Gabriel to visit the Virgin Mary to let her know that Jesus Christ is coming to you to complete the Trinity. So, in this background explanation to understand the Annunciation by the solemn will of the One, we can understand the spiritual context to wait for the revelation of Jesus Christ. As the kingdom of the One comes as it is in heaven. As the kingdom of the One comes on earth as it is in heaven. The object person of the preposition is classified as an abstract noun to have a special usage for a specific occasion. This usage connotes the internalization of entering the spiritual realm of the One, where we can have the eternal and peaceful conversation with every listener. I believe the eternal conversation in the love of the One as the way to live forever in the love of Jesus Christ. The speaker and the listeners of the conversation do not agree on the definition of the object person. So the object person does not reveal the information about the number. There is a conference I see you personally. In this conference, we can see the difference between the phrase of the preposition in person and the adverb personally. The adverb personally is classified as an adverb. The phrase of the preposition in is also classified as an adverb. And the two clauses, I see you in person and I see you personally, deliver the same intent of the speaker from the fact that the speaker said the preposition and the object of the preposition as a unit of the definition. This description is according to the definition of the term preposition. The term preposition connotes that the object of the preposition is accentuated. The speaker considers the object of the preposition as a unit with the preposition. So we can understand the integration of the preposition and the object of the preposition that becomes a word of an adverb personally. the preposition is stated ahead of the object of the preposition, person. So we can understand the speakers who have agreed on the linguistic agreement on setting the preposition and the object of the preposition as a unit. The phrase of the preposition in person is replaceable by a word of adverb personally, because the phrase of the preposition describes the subject of the preposition. The preposition in describes the existences of the listeners who are the subject of the preposition in, and the subject of the preposition are the object of the transitive verb see. So we can understand that the definition of the preposition in describes the existences of the listeners directly, and the definition of the transitive verb see indirectly. In this clause, the adverb personally describes the definition of the transitive verb directly. So we can understand that the order of describing the transitive verb see in each clause can be the point that the one allowed us the two different clauses delivering the same intent. In the interpretation, the two clauses deliver the same intent of the speaker, but we can focus on the structural analysis, focusing on the fact that the adverb as a descriptive word describes the other descriptive word. The adverb personally describes the other descriptive verb, that is the transitive verb see. The preposition in as a descriptive word describes the existences of the listeners as the premise to indicate the listeners with the personal pronoun you. The listeners indicated by the personal pronoun you receive the definition of the transitive verb see from the speaker as the subject. So we can understand that the definition of the preposition in describes the definition of the transitive verb, the other descriptive word, in the indirect way.